Welcome to the Life Given Podcast, episode 23. I'm your host, Isaac Lopez. This is your place for current events conversations in light of a Christian worldview and in a short form podcast. Not many podcasts are like this out there. And when you get 3 shows a week with this bad boy. So let's kick this show off. It is great to be back with you guys. It feels like I haven't talked to you guys in a couple weeks. And that's due to a couple of things. One of them being that we've been trying a lot of new things out on this show. So if you haven't been around, go and just catch up on a lot of the new content and a lot of the new episodes we've uploaded this week. This is our 4th episode we released this week. That's not normal. And I don't want to promise you guys something that I can't keep, but we started the Pod Walk, which is a podcast kind of like its own project separately from the Life Given, although it's under the umbrella. And we talk about stuff that may not make it onto this podcast, and maybe some other stuff may roll out on that. So keep your eyes out for that if you're looking for something current events plus something else. Okay. We also started and launched our Imago Dei series, which is all under working off the basic principle that man is made in the image of God. So no human trafficking of any kind, whether it's baby body parts or actually trafficking human beings, none of it's okay. So with that basic principle, we are looking into ways that we can actually take down some of the monsters that are out there. And that we've been doing for a week and a half now. Today's show, and then along with that, I keep jumping ahead of myself. So excuse me. There's just a lot going on up here, and sometimes I just spit a few things that don't make any sense. Anyway. And then we also started Work It Out Wednesdays, which is a segment where we dedicate the Wednesday episode every week to a conversation. And the last 2 ones were a huge success. And this last one, with Jonathan Erber and our discussion on conspiracy theories and Christianity, might have been one of my favorite episodes I've dropped in the last 8 months. If you haven't listened to that, please go do. Please go do so, because it is, there's just so much I feel like you guys can glean from the wisdom that Jonathan Erber talked about for 40 minutes. And it's not just on conspiracy theories. I think you can extrapolate this to a lot of different areas of life. So there's kind of a recap of some of the things we've done. And that's just been in the last 2.5 weeks. So today it's going to be a normal show. Okay, I've missed talking with you guys because in our Imago Dei series, that's just me and you watching a video and kind of discussing it. And then in our Workout Wednesdays, that's just a discussion based around a current event with someone that may know more about it than I do. And then on the Pod Walk, that's something that really is just a few minutes long about random things. So we haven't really had a sit-down show for at least a couple weeks. So I wanted to kind of come back in, just have a short check-in, make sure we're doing okay. And just that we're keeping up to date on different things. The Pod Walk will kind of happen alongside and like during the busy times, and this year is going to be incredibly busy for me. But I want to keep producing content for you guys. So the Pod Walk is going to be kind of just something that will be released and mostly on Spotify and Anchor and Google Podcasts, and really just the strictly podcasting platforms. And if you weren't aware, we also started dropping episodes on Facebook Watch at the beginning of our Imago Dei series. That's had some good success. And then this last, and of course we're on YouTube. So you get audio, visual. We're trying to do a lot for you guys here. And I really hope that you guys are enjoying what you're hearing. And if you want this show to extend beyond the year 2020, share with a friend, subscribe, leave a review on Facebook. All of these small things really do help a lot. And you can find me on Parler at TLG Podcasts, at underscore TLG podcast underscore on Instagram, the Life Given News on Facebook. And if you want more inside information, you should just follow on all those platforms if you can, because you'll get a little bit of insider's information. Instagram, definitely. I've been posting about once a day at least there. And then also the Life Given podcast conversation group on Facebook. Because some of these, the two things I want to talk about today, the Derecho in Iowa, or Derecho, Derecho. There's a lot of ways to say it. And Kim Klacik's ad campaign she just ran a woman running for Congress out in the city of Baltimore. And it's incredibly interesting. And if there's one theme that you can tie these two together, is that the mainstream media has a very strict agenda that they stick to regardless of what actually is going on in the world. And these are purportedly news sites. Both of these things I came across either being tipped off by friends or by family members, and we were watching this one together, the Kim Klacik ad. And I wanted to share these with you guys because the mainstream media hasn't really talked about it. This storm, the Derecho, we'll start with the Derecho. So the Derecho has been likened to like inland hurricane, and it shares some similarities, mainly the high-speed winds. But the Derecho is a string of storms that can travel up to at least 100 miles, I think, for it to be qualified as this kind of storm. And it gets up to wind mile per hour is around 75, 100 miles per hour. And my encounter with the storm recently, not nearly in this ballpark, but Ruth and I traveled down to Kansas City, Missouri after we got married. And we were visiting family. I was introducing her to some of the family that didn't get to make it to the wedding. And the 2 days into our stay there and our visit, this mile-wide tornado is sweeping through Kansas, close to the Missouri-Kansas border. For those of you who don't know, Kansas City is on the border of Kansas and Missouri, and we were staying on the Missouri side. And it passed probably within, I don't know, like 10 minutes of us, 10-minute drive. And it was picking up garbage and debris and dropping it 20, 30, 40 miles away from where it started, estimatedly. And that was just a stark reminder of really the force that winds can have. Now, this storm that has not been covered by mainstream media, I'll link to a couple articles and some footage down below because you should take a look at it, happened in Iowa. And, it's flyover country. It's not talked about much. It's the Midwest. Who cares about what happens there? But there were people 4 days after this storm that didn't have electricity, didn't have running water, couldn't go out, didn't have gasoline. Everything's shut down. The power, internet, all of that's taken away because of this storm. Why would something of this magnitude not be mentioned anywhere? And, like I've mentioned before, I have an inbox where I subscribe to tons of different emails and tons of different news sites, but never got notified. I only heard about it because I listened to someone who podcasts in Iowa, Steve Dace, if you know him. This storm traveled 750 miles on land, and reportedly, some reports are coming out that it reached wind speeds of up to 140 miles per hour. 140. Just imagine that. You can't, can you? I mean, those are winds like no one has ever really experienced before, unless in Tornado Alley or if you live on the coast where hurricanes happen. It's crazy, and that wasn't covered, and that just blows my mind. No pun intended. Anyway, so keep an eye out for stuff that the media is not covering, because something like this, there is no excuse for news outlets who are national news media centers and don't share that kind of story. That kind of raises questions in my mind. Why wouldn't they? I think they're focused on our boy Trump. It's just my thoughts. Now let's roll on to Kim Klacik's ad campaign. And I honestly just want to watch it with you and react to it afterward because I think it's great. Here it is.
Do you care about Black lives? The people that run Baltimore don't. I can prove it. Walk with me. They don't want you to see this. I'm Kim Klacik. This is Baltimore, the real Baltimore. This is the reality for Black people every single day. Crumbling infrastructure, abandoned homes, poverty, and crime. Baltimore has been run by the Democrat Party for 53 years. What is the result of their decades of leadership? Baltimore is one of the top 5 most dangerous cities in America. The murder rate in Baltimore is 10 times the U.S. average. The Baltimore poverty rate is over 20%. Homicide, drug, and alcohol deaths are skyrocketing in our city. Do you believe Black Lives Matter? I do. The vast majority of crime in Baltimore is perpetrated against Black people, who make up 60% of the population. So why don't we care about our communities? The Democrat Party have betrayed the Black people of Baltimore. If the politicians walk the streets like I do, they would see exactly how their policies and corruption affects us. But they don't want to see it. They don't want you to see this. Go to any Baltimore neighborhood and ask this question. Do you want to defund the police?
No. Absolutely not. I had 3 sons killed in Baltimore City. And I think if we defund the police officer, we'll be worse than that. So no, I'm opposed to that.
What are you going to defund the police for? Why? How do you defend your city, your community? Families are losing people.
It's not just Baltimore. The worst place for a Black person to live in America is a Democrat-controlled city. It's 2020. Name a blue city where Black people's lives have gotten better. Try. I'll wait. Look at this. How are children supposed to live here and play here? Democrats think Black people are stupid. They think they can control us forever. That we won't demand better and that we'll keep voting for them forever. Despite what they've done to our families and our community. Are they right? I'm Kim Klacik, and I'm running for Congress because I actually care about Black lives. All Black lives matter. Our communities matter. Baltimore matters. And Black people don't have to vote Democrat.
Wow. So a very, very fascinating ad that Kim Klacik is running. And, I'm surprised. Honestly, I feel like she's ahead of her time. And just with the kind of truth that she is preaching with there, she's really cutting through the bull crap that I think a lot of, right. She said it right there at the end. The Democratic Party really relies on the vote from people of color and minorities. They really rely on that. And when you look at these cities across the U.S., crime is statistically higher. You just take, for example, the protests and the violence that has been happening around these protests in the form of riots. Take a look at just across the map, the majority of cities that this is happening in are run by Democrats. I mean, Trump has said that. I've heard multiple podcasters that I respect and trust have said that. And, that's Portland, that's Seattle. I mean, that's what you get when you vote for Democrats into office. And I think when you vote for crappy politicians overall. So it's interesting to see that she's coming out. And I think we're starting to see a new time where I hope that she does well, especially with that comment about how all Black lives matter. That's something that, we talked about at the end of last season, at the beginning of this season, where, a lot of the Black lives that are being killed are happening in the womb, and that's disproportionately. So I hope that she succeeds. But people like this who speak actual truth don't really succeed that well in Washington. Why? Because it's a corrupt city. Anyway, do some digging around Kim Klacik, see what she's all about. But we need to be praying and praying for people like her to be leaders in this country, and also just praying that God would raise up more leaders and praying for protection over them, and just to have the guts to continue to stand up to the swamp. So I hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode. It was kind of a recap, but then also just keeping up with current events. There's so much going on. So do follow on the different platforms that you can find this podcast on: Radio Public, Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Life Giving News websites, Facebook Watch, YouTube. We're expanding and trying to do so, but we're releasing more and more content. I hope that you guys enjoy it. I have such a blast doing this for you guys. Anyway, remember that the life that you've been given and the life that you have received includes every area of life. Why should current events be the exception? God bless, and I'll talk to you Monday.